This is James Mathers for the Digital Cinema Society at Cine Expo 2021. I'm here with Dwight Lindsey. He's the president of Lindsey Optics, and Lindsey Optics is relatively new, but Dwight has been in the optics business for many, many years. For people that aren't familiar with Lindsey Optics, tell us about it.
Okay, well, 5 years ago, we started Lindsey Optics. I left Schneider Optics and started this new company. And we're making filters, lenses, and now recently a director's viewfinder for the cinematography industry. So we started with some neutral density filters, some diopters, clear filters, clear protective filters. We made a strong effort to put a multi-layer anti-reflection coating on everything we make. We don't put them on our flare filters because they're supposed to flare. But it has always made me crazy that filters for cinematography by the other famous companies are not anti-reflection coating. A uncoated piece of glass will reflect perhaps 4% per surface, a little more if it's dirty maybe. And so on one filter you have 8% of the light which is going somewhere you don't intend, and reducing contrast, reducing color saturation, and just changing things. Every modern lens has an anti-reflection coating, usually a broadband multi-layer coating. And filters for photography have broadband multi-layer MC coating on them. But for cinematography, where we're doing movies that sometimes appear on 90-foot wide screens, we've got uncoated filters. Makes me crazy. So, for example, imagine you have a matte box with 3 stages, and you put 3 filters in them. You have 3 filters, 8% per filter. 24% of the light hitting the first filter is ending up in some place you don't intend. I'm beside myself. So our filters, except for the flare filters, have this broadband multi-layer anti-reflection coating, which reduces reflection to about 0.5% per surface. And therefore, with 3 filters in your matte box, you're losing 3%. That's reducing your contrast and color saturation, not 24%. So that's where we started. We then started designing, engineering, and manufacturing rotating filters. Famously, the rotating polarizer. We call it a rotopole. Some people call it a rotopola. And we moved on from that to, quickly moved on from that to a variable neutral density, where one polarizer is fixed in the frame and the other rotates. We use 2 circular polarizers. The circular polarizer, you may know, is constructed with a linear polarizer, and then there's an additional component inside the filter called a quarter wave retarder, which spins the light. We think about it as depolarizing, but it interferes with the polarization effect. That is used in photography or any place where there's a mirror in the system to avoid cross-polarizing on the reflective surface, the beam splitter or mirror that might be in the optical system, and has become the standard for use in cinematography. And when you're using it that way, the quarter wave retarder is pointed toward the camera where the reflective surface might be. What we're doing with the neutral density, the variable neutral density, is we point the quarter wave retarders out toward the world and toward the camera. And therefore we're depolarizing on the world side, depolarizing on the camera side, and you don't have any possibility of an accidental polarization when you change the density. So just imagine that you're shooting a scene where there's some water or some glass, and a cloud goes over, and you want to change the density. You don't want to find out that the reflection changes between this moment and that moment in the scene. So we went on from there to add effects filters, streak filters. We have the streak filters which would do the classic anamorphic blue streak. We have clear streak filters which would give you a clear streak. We put them in our rotoframe, the same one we use for the rotopole and the variable neutral density. which allows you to rotate them for different angles. If you rotate the rod lens so it's vertical, you get the classic horizontal streak. If you put the rod lenses horizontal, you get a vertical streak. On all of our rota frames, we have a 1/4-20 thread in the handle, so you can, and many do, mount a rod on the 1/4-20 thread, maybe a 15-millimeter rod. You put a motor on that, lean it down against the 0.8 gear in the rota, and now you can rotate. So you can do rotating streak effects. We've done confetti filters, which gives you kind of a star effect, and you can rotate it. We've done a swirl filter, which gives you a kind of a star effect, but with a long elliptical tail on the star. And again, you can rotate it. So it might not be for your average movie, but for some special scenes, a bar scene, a drunk scene, you might use something like this. And for music videos, certainly you could add some sparkle and rotate the effect. So we then went on to do some things we call tray-mounted diopters, tray-mounted close-up lenses, where we mount the diopter glass directly into a frame that fits in most 4x5.65 matte boxes. The idea here is that instead of using a 138 millimeter round drop-in filter in a matte box where you need to perhaps slide the matte box forward on the rails, insert the diopter, slide it back to the camera. Perhaps you picked the wrong strength. Now you reverse the process, and you're handling filters and putting them in and out of pouches and cleaning them. Instead of that, in those rod-mounted matte boxes or in lightweight clip-on matte boxes, you take the diopter, which is already in a tray, drop it in the matte box, and you're there. If you picked the wrong one, you take it out, drop another one in. You've saved seconds, probably minutes, which can add up to hours. Going back to the variable neutral density and the rotopole, if you put the rotopole in front with this side out facing the world, as it always is, you can then put variable neutral density behind that, and you can motorize both of them. So imagine, and we have customers doing it, imagine a car shoot where you've got perhaps a hood-mounted camera looking at the windshield, and a camera car that may be preceding the camera, the car where the actors are. You'll arrange you'll put motors on both of those and wireless controls on both of those, and you'll arrange the polarization so that you can see through the windshield, but maybe it doesn't go away completely. You want to know that there's a windshield there, but you want to see through it. And you'll arrange the neutral density so the depth of field and exposure is how you want it. A cloud goes over. You change wirelessly from the camera car. You change the exposure on the variable ND. You haven't changed the depth of field. You haven't changed the lens, just the exposure. When the cloud goes over, the reflection changes in the windshield. You change that. You don't have to stop both cars, climb down from the camera car, change the ND filter. By the time, in the traditional way, by the time you've done that, the cloud goes away. And I think you may have saved hours during the day by being able to wirelessly control these things. Back to the diopters. We are producing what we call rotosplit diopters, where we have a split field diopter. The diopter is cut in half, and the idea there is for deep focus cinematography. It's an old idea, by the way. It was done, 50, 80 years ago. For deep focus cinematography, you'll arrange so that the glass is on the side where the near objects or near action is, and the clear part of the filter is arranged for the far object, and you can have maybe a person with a gun close up and the victim further away, and everybody's in focus.
It's always hard to hide that line, though.
Exactly. And so what you need to do is you need to find some object or edge in the scene which is going to allow you to align that cut edge with it. It's going to be a door frame or a building edge or a railing on a bridge. And what we've done is we've put the split diopter in our rotoframe. So with one of the gears, you can rotate it to find the particular angle of that bridge railing. And then there's a locking mechanism where you can lock the diopter in place. So it does absolutely the same thing as a traditional drop-in split focus diopter, but it's easier to arrange. And again, you don't have to put it into a rod-mounted mat box, take the mat box out on the rails, put the filter in, put it back. It's not angled right, take it out, rotate it. You drop it in the mat box, find the angle you need that split edge, and lock it off. It's faster. So all of our rotas are simply faster to use than some other product.
It seems like you take your vast experience in optics and look out at the cinematography field and say, there's a need there, there's a need there, and then you make something special.
And we're trying to listen to customers, and what we're hearing again and again is that the products we're making, like the tray-mounted diopters and the rotosplits, they're faster, and speed is everything. Minutes are important on set.
How about the Viewfinder?
It's our newest product and our most complex product. We're making a large format viewfinder which looks at formats as large as a Lexus 65, which is larger than anyone else can look at. I decided that when we were going to design this, we might as well go big. And we arranged it so that there are modules which drop in and out of the top of the viewfinder, which will allow you to get the appropriate magnification for different formats. So this is our large format director's viewfinder. The concept is modular. We have modules that go in the top. This happens to be a VistaVision module. We also have Super 35 and full frame modules. The modules come in and out by pressing the two red buttons. On each module is a ground glass, and the ground glass is marked with a frame that is for the format of the camera that and camera format that you're going to use. So the way we mark those is we take one of our ground glass marking jigs that are supplied with the kit, and we place it over the ground glass, and then we mark the frame line with a 0.5 millimeter drafting pencil. Once you've marked a frame line, this is something like a Monstro or Raptor VistaVision format. You put the ground glass on there magnetically and insert it into the viewfinder like so. Natively LPL, with every one we supply an LPL to PL adapter, and in this case we've got a PL lens mounted. You can get the idea about why we have modules by looking at the Super 35 module. You'll see that this aperture is a little bigger than the largest Super 35 format we know about. And so if you get a sense of the size of that and then look here at the magnified size of that, you'll see that we have optics here which are magnifying the format appropriately to present the biggest possible clearest possible image to the eyepiece. So for Super 35 formats, you would choose the Super 35 module, you would mark a Super 35 format on the ground glass. For a full frame like Venice or Alexa LF, you would take our full frame module and again mark the format, apply the ground glass, and you can see that there's optics here with less magnification than with the Super 35. And for the VistaVision module, we have a doublet with an A-sphere in it to control distortion. And again, there's even less magnification in order to view that much larger format.
So you could even do custom ground glass, huh?
Yeah, we can. So we supply over here a range of marking jigs, templates, which would let you mark formats for Venice or LF or Mini or Monstro or Raptor. But if you want some format that we haven't planned for, tell us what it is. We will make the marking jig for you. We'll 3D print it and send it to you. the viewfinder is spherical only. It does not do anamorphic. Anamorphic is of interest, but not on this one.
Next.
maybe the next one, maybe end of next year. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Thank you for all your innovation. It's
Yeah,
making our job easier and faster.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for the interview.